Hello. So I'm just walking to the bus stop to head into town to meet my friend, and we're going to have a little look around HMV, CX, and maybe downtown Retro. Just gonna have a little look about, and maybe I'll buy some shit. In the immortal words of Matthew Soames, we'll see what happens. Oh, waiting to cross the road. Hey, it's about friggin' time, baby. One thing that really annoys me is that it hasn't got a countdown-y thingy, so I always feel like I'm gonna get fucking ran over as soon as I get to this point when it runs out. Oh dear.
Okay, so starting things off at the new and improved downtown Retro store, and it's now got a bigger unit. And it's nice to have a quirky shop like this in Bromley among all the trashy, overpriced poo that consumes most of the Glades. They've got this nice new collection of posters in the new shop, which I like a lot. And I did have a chat with the guy about how they're going to try and think about expanding the vinyl selection, even having different genres and separating the records out, so that would be brilliant. But as it stands, I think it's a nice setup with the old-fashioned milk crates holding the records. I do feel that the shop is still slightly sparse on the merch. I think they could really fill up the shop one hell of a lot more. So here we are in Mackie D's. This table service thing they do is an absolute godsend because McDonald's can be a very difficult environment anyway. So bright and busy and noisy. Not to mention the music. It's like a bloody rave in that place, assaulting your eardrums with the epitome of nothingness that is the top 40 charts. So this is a fairly typical order for me. Fillet of fish meal, one of my all-time favourites. But sometimes you got to pad it out with something because the fillet of fish has just not got very much substance to it these days. So on this particular occasion, I had the side burger of the double cheeseburger to pad it out. As my friend there looking a little bit deranged, we often meet up and have a Mackie D's, and he'll tell me what's been happening and I'll try to help. Virtually all my friends are people with autism at this point. I feel that life is better when you surround yourself with people who are somewhat on the same wavelength. I'd be a very isolated, sad man if I had to be around normal people all the time. Well, it's HMV, the land of dreams and physical media. This is a pretty modest HMV, but it's nice having an HMV shop so close to home, especially when you live out in the sticks like I do. Bromley used to have a much larger, more ideal HMV, which is now a Robert Dyer's. This was a 2-storey shop, so it had a much wider selection. I really miss those days. I have fond memories of picking up the Bends by Radiohead on vinyl for £10. But now the shop is inside of the Glades, but I think this shop has its own unique set of charms. So here we have the big vinyl sale. My issue with these sale bins is that instead of being something that's cheap, it's something that's gone from really overpriced just down to normal price. It will be something that was just ridiculously priced, like £49 for a single record, that's gone down to £25, and it's like it's still not cheap, it's just not as overpriced as it was before. The other thing is it's filled with things that no one really wants, and some of it is like, why is this even on vinyl and who is buying it? You know, is it just people doing it for a fad? I did, however, however, get two really good reduced records, and we'll speak about those a little bit later on. I was considering getting this ELO best of, but I mean, £29, a little bit steep. I really like these genre dividers with the artist painted on. It does give it a nice old school record shop feel. So you have Jimi Hendrix, Elton John, etc. there. I think a lot of these reduced items are new albums by old artists. In other words, stuff that not many people are buying. Quite like the look of this Amy Winehouse Frank picture disc, but I've already got the Abbey Road remastered vinyl of that. So the first pickups of the day is a couple of Arrow video releases. So we have The Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky, and then I also picked up El Topo, another very strange movie. I'm really liking these Arrow video releases. They provide something a little extra than your bog standard Blu-ray. Can't Buy a Thrill, Steely Dan. That is going straight in my basket, especially when you see what the price was. They had the new 21 Pilots album. I have given this a listen. They were also playing it in the shop, and I think it was a kind of hit and miss. I toyed with the idea of buying Terrifier 1 and 2 on Blu-ray, but I find that movies like that are more fun at the cinema, you know, like horror movies and creepy stuff. I have seen the first one, and it is bloody violent, no pun intended. An absolute classic, Dawn of the Dead. I wouldn't recommend hiding that up your jumper and trying to steal it. Unless, of course, you like being chased down and being tackled to the floor by very large security men. Oh no, a couple of mates who probably wouldn't mind that, actually. So the next shop we stopped off at was Game, and the reason why is because we saw a massive Lego logo from outside. I wasn't expecting them to have as much variety as this. Usually shops like this just have a couple of crappy sets that would only appeal to children. So they have a pretty nice, sophisticated collection of Lego, and I found this absolute bad boy for only £56, down from £69. I've been considering buying this set from the Lego website for ages. So excellent to get it for a nice discount here. It looks like it would just make for a really nice kind of vintage looking Lego model for my shelf. Whilst I was in Game, I did have a look at the Nintendo Switch selection. I never know what Switch games would appeal to me. I did see Mario Odyssey, which looks like a lot of fun, so maybe this will be the next game I get for my Switch. Oi, that's the sort of traffic light that I like to see. Fucking Cant Dan. That is a gorgeous sight. Okay, so here we are in CX. There used to be a massive DVD and Blu-ray selection upstairs, but now it's staff only, so all of the DVDs and Blu-rays live downstairs. I'm really interested in this Only Fools and Horses Blu-ray collection with the hour-long specials. I have the whole series, of course, on DVD. I mean, it's probably my favourite comedy show of all time. But I think I get a lot of enjoyment out of buying this Blu-ray set, especially an episode like Jolly Boy's Outing has got a lot of outdoors shots filmed on 16mm, which can, of course, be restored to HD, so I'm sure a lot of that stuff looks really good. I was really impressed with my Fawlty Towers Blu-ray that I got, and I thought even the videotape footage, the studio footage, had been cleaned up really nicely and looked really nice compared to the DVD. And of course the outside shots look brilliant, the ones that they've been able to restore from the original slides. I find it pretty fascinating that BBC are putting out these Blu-ray sets, and the presentation just looks lovely. This Evil Dead trilogy looks like fun, but £15 is a little bit steep for a second-hand Blu-ray, I felt. Here we are in the DS selection, and I saw Super Mario Bros. I need to find my cartridge of that, because that's one of my favourite games of all time. So, with my purchases safely stored in my game bag, I headed for home.
Hello, we're back. I am officially broke, but I can tell you that I'm a happy boy and I'm very excited about what I've got to show you. The first thing I picked up from HMV was Dawn of the Dead. So I ended up getting this on 4K because it turned out to be pretty much the same price as the Blu-ray. So I just thought, well, why not get the 4K? especially as this is easily in my top 20, maybe top 10 movies of all time. I think I studied this back in media studies at school, and I do remember being pretty much glued to the screen, frankly. So this is the zombie movie that was famously all shot inside of the shopping centre, the really big shopping centre. And it's a lot of fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's one of those films that I've always returned to, you know, every couple of years we'll order a pizza and watch Dawn of the Dead. One of those classic comfort films you want to watch on a rainy Sunday night. And this is a perfect film for me because it has so many things that I love. You know, great visual effects, great atmosphere, great retro 70s shops and architecture, amazing action and stunts, comedic elements. I think that's what makes me love it so much. I can't stand something like The Walking Dead, for example. That's just too bleak and depressing and threatening and just, ugh. No, don't like that. So this set contains 3 different cuts of the film, and frankly, I'm not complaining because I think this movie is big enough of an obsession for me to warrant having 3 versions of it. And we're treated to an entire disc of special features, which is crammed full of fascinating content if you're a fan of this film. There's a really lovely documentary featuring many of the people who played zombies and were involved in the production, and a lot of them are just really humble, down-to-earth people. There's a real sense that they had so much fun making the film, and so many people came in to be a zombie in the background, and you can tell that they were just doing it to have a good time pretty much, especially as they were only paid $1 to be a zombie in the background. I don't think the creators of the film had that great of a sense that it would go on to become the most famous zombie movie of all time. There's a bit on the behind the scenes where they talk about driving the motorbikes inside of the shopping centre and how you'd never be able to get away with doing that today, which is just another thing that adds to this movie being of its time and being very special. I mean, I think the film just has such a good sense of humour while still being eerie and atmospheric and innovative for its time. So my brother first got into 4K a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I was a little bit sceptical about it. I thought, you know, I cannot see the difference between normal Blu-ray, normal HD and this new 4K thing. But in very recent times, I've started picking up a few, because my brother's Xbox plays them, just picking up a few favourite movies that I imagine would look particularly good on 4K, like things like Stanley Kubrick movies, for example. And after reviewing these films and watching the 4K, I do think that certain things can really shine on the 4K, because it's not just the high resolution, but also the colouring as well that's different from normal Blu-ray. It can really provide something a little extra over the Blu-ray, and I don't think it's necessarily to have all your films on 4K DVD, but maybe just, you know, your top 10 favourite movies of all time, I suppose. So this restoration is by Second Sight Films, and it's a new 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it really is the dog's bollocks. It does look marvellous. There's one scene where we have a close-up of an old retro 70s vending machine, and you can really see every brand of confectionery in such crystal clear vision. My mum could recognise a lot of long-lost brands that she can remember being a child in the 70s, and she could point them out and show me. So this is the DVD, my original DVD of Dawn of the Dead, and I'm not going to get rid of it because it's a proper old school DVD. I like the really old 18 certificate there, and I think it's like it's almost like a VHS cover with the way it looks, and it's got this ultra thick casing. This is the director's cut. So I'd say this is a must-have if you're a 4K collector or a fan of the movie Dawn of the Dead. It's provided me with hours of absolutely brilliant entertainment, and I'm very, very happy with it. So the next movie that I got from HMV is The Holy Mountain on Arrow Video. This is probably another top 10 movie for me, I'd say. It's one of the most bizarre, surreal, visually fascinating, peculiar movies you're ever going to see. A masterpiece of surrealism and psychedelic cinema. You've never seen anything like it. It's insane. It has a particular dreamlike quality that I like, that I've never seen replicated in any other movie. Part of this movie is almost like a series of very weird, surreal short films within the full-length film. Most of it is like, what the fuck is going on? Even though it does have a meaning and a narrative, of course. So I have the DVD of this, but it was definitely needing an HD upgrade, as it's a very visually rich movie. A lot of very striking imagery and colours. My friend who introduced me to Alejandro Jodorowsky also has this, and we watched the special features around his. And there's a lot of very insightful content on there talking about the production of the film, Jodorowsky himself. The film was pretty hard to see, from what I gather, for decades, and that really adds to the mystique of it, that it was like a rare film that you couldn't see for a very long time. I also got El Topo, the movie that he made before The Holy Mountain. John Lennon saw this movie and praised it a lot, and that brought a lot of public attention to Jodorowsky. Lennon was such a big fan of this that he actually helped fund The Holy Mountain and put up money for the film's production. I've also heard reports that George Harrison was going to be in this movie, which would have been rather bizarre. So here are the tartan DVD releases for these. I'll probably be selling these on now as they're pretty obsolete. I did watch them before I got the Blu-rays and they weren't quite cutting the mustard on our big large TV. So the next record I got was Can't Buy a Thrill by Steely Dan. So many of my friends were saying how good this album was and how much I'd like it based on my tastes. Even when I took it up to the counter in HMV, the woman behind the desk was like, great choice. And I was thrilled when I found this in HMV for only $15.99. This thing costs $37.99 on the HMV website, so that's a massive reduction. And the peculiar thing is that this wasn't even in the bargain bin. It was just in the rock and pop section, as you saw in the video there. You know, this is a classic album from the 70s with a big fat reduction slapped on it, and you haven't even put it in the bargain bin. Go figure. So this is 70s soft rock perfection, and I'm all for it. I really like the track Midnight Cruiser. The groove between the piano and the bass and the drums is so tight and infectious. The chorus is reminiscent of Jimmy Cliff's The Harder They Come. When I listen through, I can't help but think that this would be a perfect album to play pool to. In fact, I think I'll whack this on next time me and my friends do have a game together, and I'm sure they'll appreciate its intricate charms as much as I do. Absolutely loving this at the moment. I recommend playing it loud. Bizarrely, the same week, I found this in my local charity shop for 10 pence. Not every day you find Steely Dan in the charity shop. I really like the rainbow label that it came from. I think this was from the movie called FM, which I've never seen. So, I mean, how cool is that, finding that the same week? The shop was doing a sale, and they were doing 10 7-inch singles for £1. So 10 pence for this. I mean, that's a really nice little nugget of charity shop gold. Doesn't get much better than that. And I did get 9 other 7-inch singles in that deal, which I might show at a later date. But put it this way, they're not as good as that. So the other record that I got from HMV, which I didn't show in the video, was a little bit of Paul McCartney. This was in the reduction bin, and it was £20 down from £29. This is often celebrated as his late life or late career masterpiece from a lot of fans, and it was produced by Nigel Godrich of Radiohead fame. And essentially he was able to get a really good album out of McCartney and also give it some of his special production gloss over everything. He actually got Paul to play most of the instruments by himself, which is very special. And it's nice because there are moments on here that just remind me of the Beatles stuff, honestly, like Sgt. Pepper, etc. A very playful pop sound. The acoustic guitar plucking on the track Jenny Wren could give Blackbird a run for its money any day, as far as I'm concerned. Some people would consider this one of Paul McCartney's best albums overall. And personally, you know, nothing's going to touch McCartney or Ram, for example, but I do think it's a very good one. And I think it is a cut above your average late career album from someone like Paul McCartney. And it's especially impressive as he made this some 40 years after peaking with things like Revolver and Rubber Soul. The album cover is a really old photo of Paul McCartney in his back garden. One of the reasons why this album is so good is because Nigel Godrich actually rejected a lot of Paul McCartney's ideas, which is a very bold move considering he's one of the most important songwriters of all time. The song Riding to Vanity Fair sounds like your typical uncanny wintry Radiohead song. So it's a nice kind of blending of two very unique sound worlds. The world of Nigel Godrich and Radiohead, really 2000s eerie kind of sound, and of course Paul McCartney, who we all know and love. All the songs are really good. It's not an essential album in my opinion, but I think it's well worth a listen. And his voice sounds very good here. I mean, it's not as good as what it was in the 60s and 70s, of course, but still sounding really nice in 2005. Yeah, I suppose normally I wouldn't buy an album this late into the career of an artist like Paul McCartney, but this is kind of an exception, and I'm really enjoying it. The vinyl sleeve has definitely got
some nice gloss on there. It's a nice glossy cover. So the next thing we got from my local town isn't music related at all. So I've recently had a really big resurged interest in Lego after finding this beautiful set in my local charity shop where I work. It's the Lego moving van, and I'm very, very picky about Lego. There's just certain designs and sets that I like more than others. Here's the box next to a Diet Coca-Cola just so you can get a reference. So quite a small set, of course. One thing that confused me is the fact that this says 18+, when this is an incredibly simple set that a child could build. Anyway, I got this and 2 other small sets for only £5. How bad is that? And me and my girlfriend built the other 2 sets together. Building all these sets has really reignited my passion for the hobby. I'd forgotten the joy of snapping Lego bricks together and gradually watching this amazing thing construct and come together. So this is one of the sets that I've been eyeing up for quite a while. It's a really nice concept for an adult Lego set. It ejects the little Polaroid pictures that it comes with, which is nice. I thought it would be really challenging to build as it has moving parts, but it was actually a really enjoyable, straightforward build. I did have to go back on myself once as I made a small mistake, which meant the top half didn't snap to the bottom half correctly. But from my point of view, that was a bonus because I just got to spend more time putting it together, which was an absolute joy. I built this whole thing whilst listening to Radio Rental, which is a podcast about real life stories of weird things that have happened to people. If you want to have an absolute blast, listen to this podcast whilst building Lego. You'll have an absolutely cracking time. So thanks for watching the video. I've had a lot of fun making this video, and I will see you very, very soon.